Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to be talking about what is actually healthy and not healthy. Now, okay, it's a little bit subjective here because I'm not a doctor, I'm not a dietitian, but I did study dietetics in Canada before coming over to the United States, thinking that I would be a dietitian before I gave up on that opportunity and or that idea. My voice sounds really deep. Oh my god. I literally just got out of bed. I'm so sorry. Anyways, um, I would say like it's kind of subjective to proclaim what is and is not healthy. Usually people go something's healthy, something's not. An apple's healthy, a brownie is not. But in reality, health is a technical scale. Healthy is only actually able to be operated as a comparison. So, say hypothetically you have only one item, you cannot technically be able to just call it healthy or not because you have to compare it to a scale and apply what the subject terminology is, the word healthy, as is to a category or a system. The term healthy doesn't actually have a legitimate category or, a legitimate description of a series of items or anything like that. It's not really even just you avoid X, Y, and Z, materials in your food, or you have X, Y, and Z materials in your food. This is what makes the term healthy so subjective. So it's a little bit difficult to gauge what is and is not healthy just by saying X is healthy, Y is not healthy. So it's difficult in that regard to just proclaim healthy because then everyone else is going to say something different than you. Someone will think red meat is healthy, someone else will think that eggs are unhealthy, someone else will think that broccoli particularly is unhealthy, and other people will say berries are the healthiest. But what comparison scale do we have? Food is made up of many compounds, from the macronutrients, carbs, proteins, and fats, to the, micronutrients, all of our nutrients in our foods, vitamins A, B, C, D, etc. And then outside of that, we also have things like polyphenols, antioxidants, flavonoids, things like that. So that's when things get into on the basis of oxidation, antioxidant capacity, which is something that very few people actually consider when it comes to what is and isn't healthy. Although I've seen a lot more people focusing on it nowadays than they have in the past. I also have to mention that this doesn't even calculate for things that are healthy, but they have an unhealthy compound to them. A lot of people can look at salmon like it's healthy. It's got a lot of omega 3 fatty acids, proteins, healthy fats, blah, blah, blah. But people do not actually think about the unhealthy compounds, the potential bioaccumulative compounds like heavy metals in the fish, predominantly contained in the fat where the healthy omega-3 fatty acids are found. And other people might not, focus on the, I don't know, high sugar content or low fiber content of honey, even though it could be healthy for some, given that it has antioxidants contained in it and can be a good source of energy and it's low fat. Like people will categorize what is and isn't healthy also based on their biases or a collective of diet. I think that in general, diet is a collection of different variables that can dictate whether a total diet is healthy. It's not based on just an item being healthy. So, say you have a diet that is predominantly fruits and vegetables, lean proteins, carbs that are fiber filled, and then you have maybe 20% of your food coming from some form of processed food or calories coming from processed food. Even though not everything in your diet is healthy, you can argue that your overall diet is quite healthy. Now, other people would be able to argue with you and say, well, 20% processed food is not healthy, but the outcome is mainly what we are trying to garner. Usually a healthy weight, a long life, more strength, more stamina, in general, just a good sense of well-being, So it's difficult to just dictate one food as being healthy or unhealthy, although I think we can tell what foods, hyper-processed foods and or whole foods, are unhealthy and healthy. I'm just saying, in general, the concept of applying health to a food or a series of variables to a food being healthy is technically not accurate because you can argue for red meat being healthy because it's got iron and it's got protein, but you can also argue that it's higher in fat and cholesterol, and that, some people will argue that fat and cholesterol are good for you. So again, you got people arguing about that. But, it also contains heme iron, which, although if you're iron deficient could maybe be useful, also can maybe not be good, because we have a lot of studies on heme iron now. So, again, it's incredibly subjective. Some people will say, well, carrots are really good for you, especially when you eat them raw, because they help decrease estrogen levels in the body. But other people could say, but some people do want estrogen. Some people have too little estrogen. So it's based on your total diet and the total, healthy lifestyle you're trying to live and the health you're trying to maintain or obtain. It's not just one item. And since having watched yesterday's, video, or breaking down yesterday's video, people do have a really warped perception from all the things that I looked through of health being 0 or 100, that it is not a spectrum of, understanding or a series of variables that dictate an overall healthy diet. A lot of people are like, this is healthy, this is not, which is good, because we can tell what is and isn't healthy, again, if we just think logically. Hyper-processed, junk foods, Twinkies, Hostess, no shade, but come on now, diet drinks, or, non-diet drinks, or, people argue about diet drinks, but, sugar water. Sugar water is not usually healthy for you, especially when it's, in the form of a soda or something like that, but, sugar water from maybe, coconut water, high in potassium, things like that. You have a coffee with a little sugar in it, but it has antioxidants from the coffee beans. Like, again, we constantly are arguing these variables. Is it 0 or 100? And that's why we should take a general approach in a lot of senses to diet. It's not to discourage eating healthy foods exclusively, it's just to point out the subjectivity of when we apply health to a food. And why so many people, I suspect, actually argue about what is and is not healthy. They're all focused on one set of variables or a total set of variables, and they have a particular perspective on all of those variables that does not always, agree with other people's perspectives. So that's like the cholesterol argument. Some people don't think cholesterol is good for them, and some people think a lot of cholesterol is good for them. Saturated fat, another one. Now, I think we all are in agreement about trans fatty acids, but that they're unhealthy. But again, people will argue about that. People argue about everything when it comes to food, and this is why I do not think it's always the best idea to be constantly hounding online about, foods that are healthy, foods that are not healthy. Let's just be honest, my people, you don't need the internet to tell you that a fruit and a vegetable are healthy, and that, chocolate cake every single day is not healthy. It's not to say you should never eat the chocolate cake. It's just to say you should enjoy these things more so in moderation, the more unhealthy things in moderation, than the, healthy food that you should make up most of your diet with. This is why, again, I would say that's why everybody on the internet argues. There's no actual categorization for what is healthy and what is not healthy. We just base it off of a host of variables pertaining to a singular food. If you look at an apple, it has macronutrients from carbs, a little bit of protein, almost no fat, but it's predominantly carbs. The fiber content is important because that will delay the absorption of sugars into the bloodstream. The sugar content is predominantly fructose, which a lot of people demonize, but in the form of fruit, it's completely fine and should not really be demonized because it won't affect the body the same way an isolated glucose-fructose molecule from syrup or something would affect the body. Apples also have antioxidants, polyphenols, blah, 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 blah. But then you say you have the brownie. And the brownie doesn't have this stuff. The brownie has, it has protein, it has fat predominantly, and it has a lot of carbs. But it lacks exponentially on the micronutrient scale because it's just a baked good, and the micronutrients could at best come from maybe the eggs or any fortified flour ingredients that you would have inside of it. And then you also have the fact that it might be lacking in antioxidants, but if it's a brownie, it'll have chocolate, which technically has antioxidants in it, so it's just dependent on what's in the brownie. Now, this is the problem, again. It's like, what do we use to actually, dictate what is and isn't healthy? And this is why I'm very willing. I've come from a lot of different places on the internet, a lot of different health devices, vegan. I used to be vegan. I used to be the vegan. I was the vegan. I remember I turned vegan in 2016 and was vegan for about 7 years, I think, and it was great. And then, I'm not gonna lie, I fell off the bandwagon. And I didn't mind it. I just didn't like the people that constantly would hound other people about being vegan, or the vegans themselves who were telling each other that you are not vegan because you eat white sugar or something that's processed potentially with bone char in an industrial setting. But I'm not trying to get the vegans upset. I'm not trying to shit talk the vegans here. Again, You can be healthy as a vegan, and you can be unhealthy as a vegan. It doesn't really make a difference. But yeah, so this is why I think that we have so many arguments online about what is and isn't healthy. I think it's pretty unanimous that we all think fruits and vegetables are healthy, but most of the time I hear everybody arguing, like with fats, sugar, carbs, proteins. Everybody's just arguing about everything. So even if I applied my own opinion, it wouldn't matter. And if we look at government sources and whatnot, some of them are not bad by any stretch of the imagination, but you always have to worry about there being some funding going to this board, or, you know, these people want you to promote these products because it's our biggest industries, you know? So are they actually healthy, or is the government being paid outwardly for us to think that they're healthy so that we buy more of them? Like, again, we don't, I know I'm talking in a conspiratorial sense, Obviously, I have to say that's alleged or whatever, or an assumption. It's not real or whatever, but you know what I mean? There are, biases. So again, like, it's hard to gauge what actually is and isn't healthy. And again, this is why I kind of have an issue with, hearing people always argue, because they're, as much as we know what is and isn't healthy, like, you can tell what is and isn't healthy. I would say we all can agree that whole foods are healthy. I know that everybody's going to argue about GMO and organic and keto and, no carb and no fat and whatever. We're all just going to argue all day long about that. But in general, I think we can all agree that healthy fruits and vegetables are healthy fruits and vegetables because they're fruits and vegetables. I don't know that many people who will argue about fruits and vegetables being healthy. So I just find it kind of funny that everybody's so, like, obsessed with, like, health. And I've been there before. Don't worry. Like, I've been there. When I turned vegan, I was super worried about my health. Always into worrying about my health. Always trying to get the next vegan thing. And to be fair, with being vegan, you do have to kind of, like, watch what you're eating. But even when you're not vegan, you have to watch what you're eating to get the right nutrients. Now I just, do my thing. I'm still pretty much vegan, actually, because I don't really eat a lot of anything other than, like, fish and eggs. So, I know that it's not vegan, it's just pescatarian or whatever, but, that's how we were raised, so, whatever. Anyways, I just think it's funny. I think it's funny how everybody's so obsessed with health, but nobody really gives a definitive application as to what is and isn't healthy, because healthy is subjective. So, it's funny. But it's not to actually discourage anybody from healthy endeavors. The reality is, eating more fruits, vegetables, whole foods, and exercising more is fantastic for your health, along with drinking water. Avoiding processed foods can be great for your health as well. These forms of generic advice, like avoiding fast food and soft drinks and stuff like that, does not have to be belittled in any capacity by me saying that health is subjective. And I know that if someone who likes to be enabled finds this video with me talking badly about healthy not being healthy because healthy is subjective, I swear to God, I will cry, because that will be a burden on society and our healthcare system even more than it already is. Like, again, there are plenty of studies showing that whole foods diets and getting exercise and, drinking a lot of water, it's good for you. But, I just wanted to kind of laugh at the concept of healthy, just because it is a little bit subjective. At the end of the day, I've looked at this in a government regard, trying to be a dietitian in Canada. It's a little different than the United States, but it's around the same ballpark. I've also come from the vegan side of things, and I've also come from the, the just normie side of things. Whatever. But, I just think it's funny, man. I just think it's funny. Anyways, that was the video. Thank you so much for watching, my people. I hope you all enjoyed, and tell me what you think in the comments below. That was the video, so, yeah. Thank you so much for watching. Slater.